Welcome everyone to New HD NYC with your host Ray K, available on all major podcast platforms and powered by New HD Media. Now here's your host, Ray K.
Here with author Daniel Hartwell of the just out book St. John Lennon, a time-traveling fantasy that imagines John Lennon resurrected back in New York City on the 40th anniversary of his passing, which happens to be right now. Imagine John, check this out, on the internet using a mobile phone now, dining at the White House with President Trump before he leaves office, arguing with Sean Hannity, and reuniting with Paul and Ringo for a virtual concert that would be beamed to millions across the world. Daniel, a noted promoter, got the thumbs up on this book concept from Ringo Starr himself. It's my pleasure to introduce Daniel Hartwell. Welcome.
Hey, I'm happy to be here. It's another beautiful day in South Florida.
It is. What's the temperature? Let me be jealous. I'm in New Jersey.
Yeah, it's about 76, 77 degrees.
Okay.
It's blustery for us.
I have friends in Florida. They always joke with me, around this time of year. They say it's cloudy out. There's a cloud in the sky. It's only 71 today, so I always get it from my Florida friends, but that's all right though. That's all right. Tell me how it is in Florida, Daniel, with the COVID situation right now.
COVID situation is rather interesting here. I'm happy I'm in Florida. The governor just last week made an announcement where he said he's not going to shut down the schools. He was getting pressured, but he feels that it's the biggest blunder in modern history to shut down schools, and feels it will be the dumbing of America if that we do that. He also said that he's not going to shut down businesses more than he already has. And it's nice to go out to restaurants here. They're outdoors, it's beautiful out, and they're all socially distanced here. So it's happy that he's keeping people working because these people, have gone broke for the entire summer, and they really need help here. And, we haven't seen a second stimulus package or anything, but otherwise, I've had friends that have had COVID. I haven't had any friends of mine that have passed away besides John Lennon. And, it's a difficult situation here in the whole world. Hope this passes soon.
Okay. Well, I'm hoping so too. I think we all are. I'm hoping 2021 to get this year over, and, better times ahead. Tell us about St. John Lennon, Daniel. How did, I heard the story you were on a beach. Tell us that little story on how this concept came to you.
Oh, great. Actually, I live on the beach, and you can actually see it on my window here.
Yes.
You can see it, and live on a beautiful beach in Ocean Ridge, which is part of Palm Beach, Florida. And I did a little run on the beach. I run down the beach with weights, and I laid down on the sand, and I never sleep during the day, ever. And I fell asleep. And any times I've fallen asleep during the day in my past, you have this weird twilight type of dream.
Right.
And it felt realistic to me, but I had this cool dream where John Lennon walked up to me on the beach, the same beach, and
right there behind you, that one?
Yes, right there.
Okay.
And he looked at me and he said, "Hello, mate, what's that?" And he pointed at my iPhone. And so I started explaining to him what an iPhone was. He had a few more questions about technology today. And we chatted for about 15 minutes, it seems. And then I woke up, and this whole plot of this book and premise kind of swooshed into my head. And I ran into my home here, and I started writing.
And the rest is history. Okay.
It was, imagine what would John Lennon do? What if John Lennon, through time travel, appeared today? How would he handle things? What would he do?
Well, that's the cool thing about it, because with all my friends, I'm a big Beatle fan, John Lennon fan, of course. Is you always wonder, what would John think now? What would he do with social media? What kind of music would he play? I know he'd be 80 years old, right about now. But in your book, he's 40, so he comes back like in prime now with today's world, which I think is fascinating. That that concept. You know, like here's John Lennon at age 40, and all these things that have happened since. Tell us about some of the things that go on. Don't give the whole book away, but I mean, it's fascinating because there's just so much volume of information you could give, you know, with the cell phone, the TV shows you could go on, the whole world from 1980. That seems to be the time where it really changed, right? Around 1980. I mean, he really left us at the time when everything just took off technology wise, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. And we're recording this today on December 7th, and tomorrow is John Lennon's anniversary of his death, of course. And so John Lennon didn't know that he died. Every year during December 8th, in front of the Dakota in Strawberry Fields, Yoko Ono holds a moment of silence, and somehow the stars aligned. And through a rift in time, John Lennon appears right in front of the Dakota. And of course, there's always a crowd there on this day paying tribute to John. So they look and they go, oh my God, is that John? It looks like John. And there's a policeman there and he's like, what kind of trick is this? And so here's John. He shows up. Yoko comes across the street and she recognizes him. And again, he is still 40. So he didn't know he was gone. It was just a second to him, that rift in time. And wow, what a world that he finds. Of course, everyone there freaks out and they all start, focusing this little black box at him with their iPhones. And of course, YouTube crashes, Facebook crashes, Twitter crashes, because around the world, John Lennon is alive. And yes, it takes off from there. What would John do? Well, of course, the press are all over him to get them on shows and talk with him. The FBI has to test him, which they do, and confirm that it's him and it's his DNA. He goes on the John Oliver show, which is one of my favorites on HBO. He goes on Bill Maher. So here's John. He's in today's world. And of course, the press, is all over him. And he goes on the John Oliver show, the Bill Maher show, and he goes head to head against Sean Hannity on Fox News, which is really interesting if you could think about what he would say.
Right.
And of course, he meets with Donald Trump at the White House and before he leaves office. And what does he do? He stops him from doing something. And you have to read the book to find out what he stops him from doing. But he also has a chance to go in and out of time where he actually goes backwards. And he meets, it's pretty funny, he meets with the Beatles, which are terrorists, stops them from doing something in the Middle East. And he's always doing something to help people out. And he's always in a loving mode, of course. And he gets a chance to make amends with his family. And it's kind of cool.
Well, the book is a lot about love. I mean, as I was reading through it, and it's a great read, it is really all about the Beatles and love, which is the big message. I know it's a fiction because, John Lennon will not be coming back any day soon, but it's an interesting concept to see what happens if he would come back. But your book is about love. I want to get into that in a few minutes, but Daniel, tell us about your career leading up to this book and what you did before in the music world.
Oh, great. Well, I've had such a great musical past. As a young kid, I had two older brothers who were in rock bands, and they were 12 and 13 years old, and they would always play Beatles music for me. And I was always their little roadie. But I got a drum set underneath the Christmas tree when I was 7. So I played the drums for many years, and I was a young promoter. My brothers and I would have little carnivals and haunted houses in our backyard. And even at such a young age, I was putting up posters on telephone poles and trees saying, carnival at Hartwell house in the backyard. It was a lot of fun learning how to be a promoter at such a young age. Being a drummer, I got to play with some kind of cool bands, and I used to I used to dress myself up where I had kind of big hair and I wore fur and I would chain myself to my drum set. And I was lucky enough to play with the Joe Perry Project, Joe Perry from Aerosmith, while he wasn't in Aerosmith. One day Joe walks by me on the drum set. I was playing at Rocky Point Park in Warwick, Rhode Island, 10,000 people there. And I was a young guy. And Joe walks up to me and he looks at me. And I knew him from playing gigs with him. He looks at me and goes, "Hey, Dan, you know who you look like? You look like the drummer from the Muppets, Animal. We're going to call you Danimal." So from then on, my stage name was Danimal, and it stuck with me for many years. Played the drums for many years, then started watching these lead singers show up. They didn't need to drag around the drum set it up beforehand, and then keep going with it afterwards. And I said, I want to be a singer. I started taking singing lessons from an old Broadway star by the name of Jerry Newby. And I decided to become a singer. So I sang for many years on top of that and was very successful. I was running like 4 clubs at once in New England. I was booking all the bands. So I was getting pretty good gigs myself. And I did really well. And somewhere in my late 20s, I looked in the mirror and said, "So you're not going to be a rock star? You're so old." I thought 30 was old, of course, back then. And I kind of transferred my energy where I noticed that the producers and promoters who are counting all the money, I said, I want to be him now. So I took hold of a fishing game club and I started doing concerts on my own where I had Blue Oyster Cult and Edgar Winter and so many bands there, Steppenwolf and a lot of cool bands. A funny story about Edgar Winter himself. When I was 11 years old, my favorite band in the world was the Edgar Winter Group. And my 2 older brothers took me to Worcester Polytechnical Institute to see Edgar. And the opening act was a band called Ramatam. And it was Mitch Mitchell, the drummer from Jimi Hendrix, on drums. And I got to meet Mitch Mitchell in between the sets. And he gave me a drumstick. I couldn't believe it. After Edgar played, which was phenomenal, and Ronnie Montrose was playing guitar, everyone went backstage back then. This is 1972. And there I am, a little kid, and Edgar is, they're shaking hands with everybody, his big cape, his big white hair and pink eyes, and he has a Schlitz in his left hand. And he hands me a Schlitz beer. And I go, oh my God, and I run off with the beer can. And since then, I've booked Edgar Winter, including at my Beatles on the Beach festival. And he jokes with me when he sees me. He says, "Do you still have that Schlitz beer?" And so I was meeting some cool people at a very young age. In 1991, Lollapalooza came out. And I said, what a great concept. I'm going to do something similar. And I put together local Palooza. Did it for a couple years. I was so successful that I got a cease and desist order from Perry Farrell and James Addiction, claiming they own the Palooza trademark. Huh. And what I did was I decided to change the name to Loco Bazooka. And I ended up booking some great bands. I had Alice Cooper and Alice in Chains and Black Sabbath and Ronnie James Dio and Kid Rock and so many different bands. And I blew it up to where I was shutting down airports to 40, 50,000 people showing up. So I had a great career being a promoter also. It pulled me up to here I am continuing to promote. And one of the latest things I've done, of course, is Beatles on the Beach.
Daniel, tell us about the process of writing a book. I know this is your first one. Is it a daunting process? You always hear about to get a publisher and that whole process. Can you just give our listeners a couple-minute version of that whole process that you went through?
Sure. With me, when I had the idea to write this book and I started jotting down notes and what the premise was and little stories of, what would John do in this situation and who he was going to meet in today's world. But I had some help with the book, and I have to give a lot of credit to Roseanne Botone. And I had met her on the beach one day, ran into her, And she told me she was a writer, and she lives in the Poconos and writes for the Poconos News and some different things. And I asked her if she might want to be a ghostwriter. She had, a lot of expertise in the English language more so than I. And she did such a great job that I put her down as co-writer. And she's fantastic. Kudos to you, Roseanne. But once we started writing the book and putting together, we found out there were some hoops to jump through, of course. Finding a publisher isn't easy. To publish it yourself isn't the easiest thing in the world. Costs money, takes time. You better get your act together to do it. But thank God for Amazon, anyone can do it. And, like Bob Leftis says, the music world and the publishing world has changed now, where people can post things on their own and put up some great artwork out there. Once we got it together and put it out there, then it was my turn to go and promote it. We did have a different version on the cover, actually, when we first put it together.
Okay.
Would you like to hear about the cover?
Pardon?
Would you like to hear about the cover?
Can you please tell us about the cover? Yes.
Okay,
I'd love to know about it. Yeah. It's a nice picture, by the way.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Actually, this picture, originally we had a picture of John that we downloaded from the internet that it said it was a free license to use. One of those free pictures. And it was scroll writing up here for St. John Lennon. And out of courtesy, I sent out a letter to Yoko Ono's foundation so it would reach her, and basically stating, hey, listen, I've got a book, about your husband coming out and that he's alive again through a rift in time. And I just wanted to let her know.
Right.
And do the right thing here. But I don't think the letter ever reached her. But it did reach a lawyer of hers. And I got a cease and desist saying I could not use, it was just a font of scroll writing. They thought it was too much of like his signature. And they said I couldn't use his picture. So my glorious lady friend Kerry actually suggested that they take a picture of me and put me on the cover. So this is actually me here as John Lennon.
There you go. Okay.
So,
I see it. Yeah.
I share that with John in some ways, which is kind of cool. I love it. Great to get out there and promote it. It was time to promote. So what did I do? Of course, I started going around the country, and I've got invitations to lecture and talk and sign the book at Beatles festivals in New York and Chicago, London, and Liverpool was my favorite. It's just an outstanding festival.
Did you visit John's house in, was it Menlove Avenue? Did you do the tour?
Did go by. And
Okay.
of course, went to Abbey Road. I have some videos of me holding the book, crossing Abbey Road.
Okay.
Lots of fun, met a lot of people there. But while I was in Liverpool for the big Beatles Week festival there, which is outstanding, I did like 9 or 10 different book signings and lectures on it. I was outside of the Hard Day's Night Hotel. It's a beautiful Beatles themed hotel. And this, little guy with gray hair, smoking a cigarette down to the nub, comes running up to me while I'm filming and puts me in a headlock and says, buy his book, It's a great book. And it ended up being Tony Bromwell, the former CEO of Apple Records. And it was such a great thing to have him there. And he's become a good friend of mine since.
Wow, cool.
We actually flew him in last year for the International Beatles on the Beach Festival here in South Florida.
Now now you said that, Daniel, you mentioned before we came on that you are, I guess, organizing Beetlefest, or you had one in March, but it was canceled. Can you talk about that and that whole? I thought that was fascinating that you're actually organizing one of these things yourself.
Great. So while I was at these Beatles fests and touring, and I was like scratching my head, saying, "Why are there no Beatles festivals and things in Florida? It's the right temperature, it's the right demographic. People love the Beatles here. There are a ton of, cool Beatle bands." So, one day I looked up at the sky and I said, "All right, I'll do it." And I put together.
Did you say it just like that?
Yes,
okay.
I really did.
Okay.
And I put together, I have experience in putting together festivals. So I put together the first ever International Beatles on the Beach Festival, and we flew in different Beatle bands from around the world, like the Swedish Beatles, the Japanese Beatles, the Brazilian Beatles. We turned the whole city of Delray Beach, Florida, which is a glorious beach town, into Beatleville. And there was a Magical Mystery mini golf happening, and Tony Bromwell came in and gave a lecture, and we had all kinds of Beatles art. Ringo donated Beatles art to be, sold and viewed at the art museum in town. Lots of fun. All of the restaurants, there was 50 restaurants involved. They all put together a Beatles themed menu and Beatles cocktail. So imagine having a Me and My Monkey margarita, or a Shop Fields Forever daiquiri. That's what went on. It was outstanding. It sold out last year in 2019. I had Edgar Winter fly in. Of course, he's, Ringo Starr's buddy. He flew in, did a great set, played some Beatles. And then this year, when we put it together, sold out in advance, had Mickey from the Monkees coming in, which of course he was, great friends with the Beatles too. And Mickey was all set to come in, and it was 10 days before this year's International Beatles on the Beach Festival, and we had to cancel it. And it was a bummer, but we're looking forward to putting it together for 2021.
Excellent. Well, sometime in 21, right? I mean, I don't know if in March, but sometime. You're obviously a Beatles fan, a John Lennon fan. Can you tell us a little bit about that? Yeah, of course you are a John Lennon fan, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Without a doubt.
Yeah.
I really tribute my big brothers, Douglas and David, for playing Beatles music all the time. Myself and my little sister Lorraine would listen to the Beatles constantly. And for some reason, I think I kind of swayed towards John Lennon a real lot. He seemed to be my favorite Beatle growing up. And, when they split and more of the John Lennon originals came out on his own, I just really loved to hear them more than anything else.
No, I was reading in my notes, Daniel, that Ringo Starr, gave you the go-ahead. I mean, he was okay with the book. I know you ran it by him. Tell us about meeting Ringo, being a drummer,
Oh, cool.
Yeah, tell me about that.
Well, Ringo was playing here in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, and I immediately saw it go on sale, and I purchased front row tickets, and they were a pretty penny.
Well, you set it up. How much? I'm gonna guess $500. How much were they?
They were more than
more.
Yeah,
okay.
Around that. Yeah.
Okay.
And so I purchased some tickets, and I have a friend here who's the drummer for Iron Maiden, and his name is Nico McBrain. And everyone knows Nico. He's a great guy, great drummer. And I had called him and his wife, Rebecca, and I said, hey, you want to go see Ringo with me? He said, sure, it'd be great. And as we walked in, he said to me, make sure you bring a book or two, and maybe we can meet Ringo and you can give him a book, but let's get invited backstage. And we did. We got invited backstage, and out comes Ringo. I swear, he prancing around like he's 15 years old, that guy.
Wow.
And comes out, was completely cordial to all of us, took pictures with all of us, and I presented him with the book and told him what it was about, and he was like, this is a great premise. He really, gave me the thumbs up on the premise of the book. Of course, I'm just handing it to him there. Loved it. I also got to see, Nico McBrain meet Ringo for the first time, which was so interesting to see Nico say, Ringo, you're the reason why I play the drums. And this is the biggest metal band ever, telling a Beatle. But for me to meet a Beatle and give him my novel I've written about a Beatle was completely bucket list. Doesn't get more bucket list than that.
Really. Now, historically, I know Ringo was a great drummer. Was he a top 5 drummer? Was he really a great drummer? You always hear stories, anybody could have been a drummer in the Beatles, but how great was Ringo?
Being a drummer early on, I think Ringo just had some type of a knack and a twist and a magic to his drumming where he was, they claim a little bit off or a little bit on, you might say. And he just had that thing. And I've only heard a couple drummers in my life come close to what he's doing, trying to play his songs. But he was just unique,
Huh.
and he didn't overplay. Some of the fills that he did that you can pick out his fills and go, that's a famous fill. Whereas some other drummers are just, rolling all the time. I mean, of course, Keith Moon was an idol of mine, but I don't think he ever stopped rolling on his drums. So it was just a different style. He's up there in the top 5 too, but certainly Ringo is right up there.
I had a drummer interviewed. I interviewed Liberty DeVito from Billy Joel Band. I don't know if
Nice.
you heard it. Yeah. And Ringo was why he got into the drums. And he said that he goes, listen to the drum fill in you're a drummer, maybe you realize it, into like With a Little Help from My Friends. He goes, he put it in a perfect spot. I go, oh, okay. I mean, as a listener, you take it for granted, but that's like great stuff, right? When you hit that just right.
It's a pocket. He
Okay.
puts it right in your pocket, and you don't forget about it.
I'm going to do a hit and miss right now, Daniel. Then we're gonna wrap it up. I got a lot more questions I want to run by you on the book.
Right.
All right, you ready? First word that comes to your mind. All right. Favorite color.
Blue.
Okay. Now, if you were in a desert island, who would you have? What music would you bring with you? One music CD or album or whatever they call it now. Download.
Oh, jeez.
Give me two. Give me two. I want two. Give me two.
I would probably say Abbey Road for sure, of course, being the Beatle fan that I am. And, I like Nirvana too. I love their,
okay.
when they
Okay.
came out, they were unique too. Probably the first Nirvana album too.
Okay. Okay.
Wait,
You like Kurt Cobain?
yeah, I mean, he was another brilliant artist, and had a great mind and a great knack for writing songs.
Now, if you were in a foxhole, other than any family members, who would you have in the foxhole with you, Daniel?
Besides family members,
Yes.
I'd probably pick Tom Brady's wife.
Oh, okay. What's her name? Giselle.
Yeah, that would be her.
Yeah. She's a model, right?
Yeah, she
Okay.
makes more money
Okay.
than Tom.
Okay.
Being from Boston, I dug Tom and went, man, that guy. Imagine being in a foxhole with her.
Are you a Patriot fan?
Absolutely a Patriots fan. I've recently become a Tampa Bay fan.
Okay.
We call it Tampa Bay here in Florida because Tom Brady and the Gronk have just joined the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But also I'm a Dolphins fan living here in Florida.
Okay. Okay. Have you heard of the from Florida? I've been seeing a lot of press. Just curious on the first person with Down syndrome that finished Ironman. He's from Florida. Have you heard that?
I saw a special on that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
so
Okay.
fantastic.
Yeah. Okay. Now, who is your favorite actor and actress? Both. Give me an actor and actress who you like.
Oh, I'm more of old school on that type of thing. There's so much that you watch nowadays on new stuff with Netflix, but I go, more to Al Pacino, that type of thing. And then I look back at some of the stuff that Faye Dunaway did and classics like that. I like watching classic movies.
Okay. Now, if you had to meet one person living, he has to be living now, who would it be? Living person tomorrow, Daniel. I'm going to let you meet this person. Who would it be?
Oh, well, certainly it would be Paul McCartney.
Okay. That's very possible, isn't it?
Absolutely. Why not?
Yeah. Did you send him the book?
I have sent him a book. I haven't heard back yet from him, but that's okay.
Okay. Now, what is the best piece of advice you would ever give someone? Because I know you're in that field, right? You're in the coaching business.
I am.
Can you give us free advice here? What would the best advice? Yeah.
For many years, putting on giant music festivals, the tour buses, 10 tour buses would show up, and the agents and the managers and other producers would get out of the tour bus, and the rock stars, and they would say, hey, where's Daniel, the producer promoter? And they'd go, see that guy, 6 a.m. running around the track over there? That's him. And do you see next to the tour bus is an outdoor gym setup? He sets it up for you guys to be healthy. After a while, meeting with a bunch of people, kind of by osmosis, I became a health coach and a positive living specialist when they would walk up to me and say, hey, Daniel, you're always so positive and happy and healthy. Can you give us some tips? So, my biggest tip is, in advance, be healthy. Don't wait till you're sick to be healthy, especially in today's world. I drink a gallon of water every day. I, run every day, do some exercise every day. And you got to take care of yourself in advance. I think, over in the Asian countries, when you go see a doctor there, they give you stuff for prevention. They don't just give you a pill to put the pain away. So I think my biggest tip to anyone is to stay as healthy as you can in advance and happy.
And your health's worth $1 million, they say. That's true. That's just not a cliche, right?
$1 million, some
A
of my,
billion dollars.
yeah, $1 billion. Some of my
Yeah.
friends are the richest men in the graveyard, all the money in the world, but they smoked and drank themselves to death and ate bad food and just, they couldn't take it with them, but it didn't keep them alive either.
Is the medical profession, is it more like you mentioned the Eastern maybe medicine's different as far as prevention? Is the medical field too much into money here? I'm trying to think of how to say it, but you know what I mean? Is it too much geared toward money?
Well, let's call it like it is. Absolutely, is too
Okay.
much money.
Okay.
I think they push the fact of getting. I try to avoid hospitals and attorneys. That's what I do. Doctors and attorneys, hospitals and courtrooms as much as I can.
Right.
The Dalai Lama had a famous saying once where they asked him, "What do you think is the craziest thing?" And he says, "How man chases money throughout his life and then lets his health go aside. Then he gets a bunch of money and he tries to buy his health back, but by then it's too late."
And once you're unhealthy, and then you're sort of at the mercy of the medical profession, right? I mean, what are you going to say when they say you need these treatments and you're in the hospital? You're almost stuck. You almost got to go with them.
Especially here. And it's easy to wake up and go for a walk and drink water and stay away from, the chemicals and the smoke in your lungs and all the things that are proven that, make you have less of a quality of life. I don't want to help people live longer. I want to help people live better longer.
Great advice. It's great to hear it. You always hear it, and people do take their health for granted. I mean, you almost got to think about it every day. Hey, I'm healthy. That's a grand slam, right?
Without a doubt.
Even waking up in the morning is a grand slam now. As I get older, I appreciate just living.
I say thank you every morning. Thank you. Another great day in front of me.
Daniel, tell us about some of these things going on as far as I know there's between now and the end of the year, I believe you're going to be donating money towards different causes, whoever buys the book. Tell us about that.
Absolutely. So with the book, every time somebody purchases St. John Lennon on Amazon, or I've actually sold 11, 12,000 of them out of my trunk here, promoting the book on myself and, going to Beatles festivals and different book signing parties that I have, but from now till the end of the year, we're going to donate all of the profits. And, we have some great things to donate it to, which is Julian Lennon has the White Feather Foundation. So half of the profits from the book will go to his foundation. And also Music Cares has a COVID relief fund.
Okay.
And so, they help all the musicians who are out of work right now and all of the roadies and tech people. I mean, imagine the entire music industry for live music is stopped. So we have to help people as much as we can.
What's your forecast for next year? Do you think it's going to pick up again? I know we don't have the crystal ball. I mean, there's some vaccines, that's going to be released, and therapeutics might be getting better. What's your feeling on it?
I think it's going to be going to pick up again. It's not going to, snap back initially until a lot of the stuff calms down. But I would think, 50% will come back, and some of the concerts maybe in the stadiums, and they'll be half full, that type of thing. It's going to be hard for the indoor venues because I think the powers that be are going to try to keep people from going into the theaters and things like that. I think the good thing for the fans is the fact that you may be able to see some of your top artists with less people there.
Okay.
Smaller venues, which would be kind of fun.
you think it'll ever go back to the way it was 2 years ago with 50,000, sellouts, sellout crowds, the whole thing? Will we be back to that point again, you think?
I think the festival world will come back like that, but I think that going to a football stadium and selling out a football stadium, it better be, the Beatles reunion or the Pink Floyd reunion or, something big for something like that to happen.
Okay. Okay.
And by the way, the Beatles reunion that happens in here, you think about if the Beatles actually had a reunion, where would they do it? Where could you put millions of people? Because they're going to show up. Well, it's in the book.
Ah, okay. I, I crack up because it's just amazing. That picture looks just like John Lennon. You would never ever guess it was you. I mean, I guess you got without the beard, you got the resemblance when you put the glasses on.
Right, right.
Yeah.
That's good. As long as you're not telling me that I look like this guy.
Oh, who's that guy?
Who's that guy? That's good. Good.
Okay. You don't look like that guy. All right.
Too many people run up to me and think I'm Owen Wilson.
Oh.
And I say, my nose isn't that crooked, is it? But
I didn't pick that up, but the blonde hair and the long hair, it could.
I'll do it again for you. You ready?
All right, go ahead. Let me see. Oh, okay.
Okay.
That way you do it. Hey, before we wrap up, Daniel, what is your favorite Beatles song? Put you on the spot.
There's so many of them. Oh, jeez, how many? How many can I count here of Beatles songs?
Give me your favorite Beatles song or two, and your favorite Beatles era.
So,
Beatles era.
Probably A Day in a Life is my favorite. I love it when "Oh Darling" comes on, and I, sing along to it. "Here Comes the Sun," "Golden Slumbers." So you can tell that I'm an Abbey Road guy too.
Okay.
Pretty much my favorite album in the world.
Was the recording on that better than the other albums? Because it has a real clear sound on that album. Have you noticed that when you hear the other, like, White Album and the other ones? There's something about Abbey Road. It just sounds great.
I do think that. And I think, billions of people thought that too. And that's why you could probably mention Abbey Road to anyone of any age and they would know what it is. But if you say the White Album to a, 18-year-old today, they might go, "What's the White Album?" That type of thing. But I have to tell you, growing up with my brothers playing this, the music, it was the music, right? It was the music that gave me that feeling. I'm getting that feeling now, the hair standing up and just that feeling that connected me so well, more than any other band in my life. Second to them is probably Queen, which
Okay.
I got to see Queen with Freddie Mercury singing 9 times as I was growing up.
Well, I'm going to give you the last hit and miss, and then we will wrap up. Give me your top 5 music groups: Beatles, Queen. Who's 3, 4, and 5?
Oh, geez. Beatles, yeah, Queen. That's a real hard one right now. I like so many different types of music out there too. I like country. I like Kenny Chesney. He's cool. I like Pink.
Okay.
Pink concert. Pink is outstanding.
Okay.
And probably one of my all-time favorite rockers of my life is Alice Cooper.
Wow.
And I've got to book and meet Alice Cooper a few times, and he is the nicest guy in the world. Nicest guy in the world.
He's not like the persona you see on TV, right?
No, not at all. I'm just a super nice guy. But I've met a lot of people. You think about meeting Ringo Starr, and I not only met a Beatle. I gave him my book about a Beatle. How bucket list is that?
I love it. Now, we were talking earlier, Daniel, as far as a trivia question, and we were going to come up with a trivia question, and then they get they get an autographed copy of the book, or what were we talking about?
Absolutely.
Okay.
There'll be an autograph question. You got to ask the trivia question. But I can tell you, I gave a bunch of other people an autograph copy too. I have to tell you who else I gave it to.
Okay.
I actually gave Cheap Trick. Cheap Trick loves the book. Joan Jett loves the book. Of course, Ringo, like I said. Bon Jovi. I got invited backstage to see Queen this past year.
Wow. Okay.
I have it on video. talking with Queen and got to present them with a book. And
I would have believed you.
Yeah, but I love the premise. Thank you for that. Got to meet Bill Clinton along with James Patterson, and that was an outstanding time because James Patterson lives right up the street here. And as I gave them each a book, they started discussing. James Patterson said, John Lennon used to live right next to me, and I'm thinking about writing a book about John Lennon. And from what I understand, James Patterson is now releasing a book himself about John Lennon. I hope I inspired James Patterson, which I got to meet a couple of times, and he's a great guy. But if someone can, guess the trivia question, which you're going to give,
okay,
we'll give out a couple of books, and I'll send them a signed copy.
I'll give it.
Otherwise, if they don't get the question, they can always go to stjohnlennon.com, or even better, go to Amazon and purchase the book. And don't forget, I'm giving all of the profits to charity.
Okay. Well, I bought it on Kindle. That was very easy too. There you go. The trivia question is, in my life, which album was that released on? Not too difficult, but I mean,
Very good.
we should, the phone should ring quick for that one, right? When you call me and when you hear this. So
I hope so. I hope they're emailing you and texting you.
St. John Lennon, author Daniel Hartwell. Thanks, Daniel, for coming out. And I'm Ray K, and we'll catch you next time.
Thanks so much. Peace and love. Share it.
Yes.
Thank you for tuning into this episode of New HD NYC. Please remember to rate, review, and subscribe to our show on your favorite podcast platform.